Well, since the formation of the National Coalition, ANC alliance partners have had much to say about the new political arrangement. Some of them say it doesn't serve the best interests of South Africans. President Cyril Ramaphosa may have a tough task of balancing their expectations and those of the political parties in the government tonight. Newzroom Afrika's Ziyanda and Ngcobo spoke to the Cosatu Parliamentary coordinator Matthew Parks today.
You've always had somewhat of a hegemony over the president in terms of your inputs, but there's so many more. 9 other political parties also have a direct, influence over the president, albeit they've always had inputs. This year is very different. Do you believe that the plight of workers is falling off the agenda with all these other competing interests now?
Look, we don't think so. Number one, it doesn't matter which parties you have in government. They've got to deliver to workers, to society at large. The challenge workers are facing today were the same as last year and the year before. And we need to see government, irrespective of which minister it is, responding to those issues. The president needs to be able to respond to the public to say he hears the cries of society, the frustrations around unemployment, around poverty, around crime and corruption, and really say what has government done in the past year, where has it done well, and there are some areas of success. We've seen that we've made huge progress with Eskom in overcoming load shedding. There's been excellent work by the South African Revenue Service dealing with tax evasion. We need to exploit that. We need to see how to give more support to Transnet to really enable the mining, the manufacturing, the agricultural sectors to take off. We need to give more support to Metro Rail to help workers get to their work on time. We've got to do more to really stimulate the economy, because for us the critical issue is unemployment. It doesn't matter which the color of a political party's t-shirt. If we don't resolve unemployment, society will implode.
But Mr. Parks, you will agree that there is a perception, and perhaps to an extent a reality, from some of the other GNU ministers that there should be more public-private partnership. And with that private ownership, sometimes it leads to, job losses. Look at what's happening at ArcelorMittal, with those 3,500 jobs on the line. So privatization doesn't always work. So how do you strike that balance with some push towards privatization versus ensuring that jobs are kept, and also ensuring that your policies, because you're a very poor worker, but also public ownership and the state being a developmental tool, that stays in place?
Yeah, so we don't think privatization is the solution. It's been shown in South Africa with the privatization of ISCO to be a disaster. We don't think it's a solution. The state's got a critical strategic role to play in the economy, to provide a level playing field for industry, for the business community at large. What we need to do is to fix the state, whether it's giving public service departments resources they need to provide the goods society requires, fixing municipalities so they can provide basic services, or enabling Eskom to provide reliable and affordable electricity, or Transnet to transport the mining and other exports. So we've got to fix that. Ideological adventures of privatization won't resolve anything. And we don't also have the luxury of time. We have an unemployment rate of 41.9%. But government has shown in the past couple of years, after the disaster of state capture and corruption, we can fix the state. Eskom a year ago was on its knees. We had 12 hours of load shedding a day. And leave aside the past weekend, we have not had load shedding for 10 months. There's been huge progress, but it's still fragile. Transnet is beginning to be stabilized, it's improving. Metro Rail is getting back on its feet. The South African Revenue Service shows that if you appoint competent management, if you remove criminals, if you give the institution the infrastructure support, the resources, it can deliver. Businesses are not saying collapse the government. They just want government to work. And I think as workers also want government to work so that the economy can take off. But we don't have the time to experiment. We need to see the basics being fixed.